Welcome to the Pinning Combination Podcast, holiday edition. As you see, Briggsy, you got the Santa hat on, and you had the Peanuts theme playing before we got started. So you in the holiday mood right now?
I am, and I don't really have an ugly sweater, but my wife thinks this is an ugly T-shirt, and it's actually a T-shirt from Southeast Polk. Red Owens Invitational that I attended for many years, and Red was my friend, and so I purchased, and his son gave me a few of them when we were going there. So very appreciative and miss Red, but here it is, holiday time. It's the best I could do for a holiday.
Awesome. Shoot, we should have coordinated. I have an old Nightmare Before Christmas shirt from the Independence tournament that they used to have, and it happened to be the one year where weather wiped out a bunch of teams from coming, so they ended up kind of the teams that were still able to travel and get there showed up, and we had some really cool duels between, I think, Waverly and Don Bosco and Independence. City High might have even made the trip for that. So
I remember that. Yeah.
Yep. So we should have coordinated. I didn't think about it.
This was kind of a last minute thing. The hat actually was underneath the tree, and I ran and got it real quick, and thought, well, I'll throw this shirt on. So sorry about that.
Yeah. Oh, that's all right. And actually, this would have been a perfect time to wear it, because I think now, that was years ago, so now the shirt would only come to about right here, so I could crop it without having to show my belly on the podcast and discuss some of our viewers. But anyway, we'll kind of go over this weekend's competition stuff. We'll start with the college edition. Finals are done for those student athletes, and we saw them take the mat again after about a week or so break. Let's start with I know the collegiate duels is a big thing, but let's start with the duel in Humboldt. Mm-hmm. Just because I really like that. I really like that situation. It was a year in the making, really. It was scheduled for last year. But when the Big Ten kind of nixed the non-conference schedule, kept Purdue and Iowa State from doing this. But Humboldt welcomed Kevin Dresser and Tony Ursuline back to the gym, and I thought it was interesting that Kevin Dresser said the gym hadn't changed a bit, but to have two D1 programs battle it out there in a pretty good duel, that was pretty neat.
Right. Top 15 duel between the two teams. I think Iowa State was ranked 13th and Purdue 15th. And and as you had said in the last iPod and many times in between then and now, two Division I coaches from, I think we said that Humboldt was 4,000, maybe, was it? And
about 4,700. Yep.
4,700. Very, very impressive to have, first of all, two coaches, and then just a neat deal. From what I understand, when the tickets went on sale, they were sold out within an hour. I think I read somewhere. So that's pretty cool.
This is a little bit of a tangent. But, speaking of the population, I kind of looked, and of course, as much credibility as you can have with Google and Wikipedia and stuff, I found it interesting with some of the smaller towns kind of shrinking. Dresser was a state champ in Humboldt in 1980 and 81. The population there was 4,700. 42 years later, 4,700. So that, I thought that was kind of interesting that, they've kind of had their ups and downs a little bit, but they've really kind of been in the same thing. They've been pretty consistent and steady for population. You don't see that for some of the smaller towns anymore.
Right, you're
But
right. There's a lot of consolidation between then and now, and it's good
mhm,
to see that they're holding steady. And that is interesting. So the gym hasn't changed, and neither has the population size.
yeah, right. So a lot of consistency there, but I thought it was interesting. Coach Dresser mentioned Chad Beeman actually had uh, kind of a lot to do with setting this duel up, and sounds like he reached out to Tony Earthland and got that secured, and then Iowa State was on board, obviously, and so kudos to Chad Beeman to kind of bring them in.
Got to have the foresight, and then to follow through with it. I mean, he's busy himself probably, so that's pretty cool. And the wrestling didn't disappoint either. I think there were some good matches.
That's right, and it was kind of a ebb and flow a little bit. Purdue got out to a big lead, won like the first three bouts, but uh, then Iowa State, won six of the last seven. 149 and 157. I know, they won the last four in a row that really took control, but I think two of the matches that really stand out, Jarrett Dagan getting the nod at 149 and winning by 10 fall, I believe. And then obviously David Carr with his pin of Kendall Coleman, and he was up big 7-1 at the time of the pin too. So it wasn't just catching somebody. He dominated a top 10 opponent.
Right, and then it's interesting because we know what Carr is capable of. We've seen that, and he just keeps getting better. He was a national champ last year, and I know it's early, and seems to have been somewhat untested yet, but he's wrestled some ranked wrestlers, but he's just on a roll. And that to me, I see that with a couple of other guys on the team as well. Dagan, if he can get rolling, we know how good he can be. He's an All-American, maybe even a couple times. He's got that length. He stands a foot ahead above everyone else at that weight. So he's got the tools, and he's going to be a dangerous wrestler with that length. And then I think you're seeing Joel Devine at 174 starting to make a presence there. Beat the number one ranked 21st ranked kid at that weight. And then also Marcus Coleman. Here's my little saying. I think he needs to adopt this. Marcus Coleman is rolling.
For sure.
But anyway, he beat number 20, and we'll talk about this, but familiar face with us, the number 20 ranked wrestler from Purdue.
Yeah, and you can't go without mentioning younger Bastida. He beat the 10th ranked Thomas Pinola, 3 takedowns. Sounded like he actually was able to put a pretty good ride. If he starts putting mat wrestling and kind of figuring out the folk style intricacies to go along with his athleticism and freestyle technique, he's going to be dangerous. And I think this is, we've seen him beat 2 top 10 guys now with Jacob Warner and Pinola. That's a huge addition for the Cyclones.
Right. And of course I forgot to mention younger as well, but with Iowa State's got it rolling, and I'm telling you, look out for this team. They're maybe Iowa was lucky and caught them a little bit early. Might have pulled an upset there in that duel. So as the season goes on, I see Iowa State getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think they're 13th in the rankings, but this is a team right now. They very well could crack the top 10, especially with the way some of those upper weights are wrestling. Dagan stays healthy. I'm not sure exactly what's going to end up with Ian Parker. And if it's even a possibility he could get back down to 141. But this is a team that could return to the top 10 if they keep progressing.
Right. And you also have Zach Redding in the mix there at 141 as well.
Mm-hmm.
So Parker's, if he can get there, he's the guy, I would think. But, maybe Redding. And then they did wrestle without Terrakina at 25, though it's a pretty able replacement in there. So, I don't know what'll happen there if Terrakina's even the guy. But, so that still remains to be seen. But Terrakina's had a pretty darn good first half of the season as well. So, anyway.
Right. So, yeah, it's just really neat to see that type of competition, to have it. The high school was packed. Dresser talked about how, he used to be the little kid up in the balcony watching other wrestlers compete. Now, he's bringing guys in, those young kids to kind of watch and then probably emulate in the future. Really neat. And, I was talking to Mark Dukes and Scott Unash on KGYM earlier this week, and they both said they'd like to see that occur more often. Are you in the same boat?
Well, I think you also mentioned that Iowa used to do it to kind of reach out to their boosters, or I might recall if it was Iowa or one of the schools that did it with their seniors, kind of went to some of their seniors that had been with the program
really?
4 years into their high schools. So I'm forgetting that, but it has been done before. I don't see Iowa doing it anymore because their fan base, they pack Carver, and no high school could do that. So to go to a high school, even to go to the Army, which doesn't go into their pockets, but
Right.
to take a date away from themselves to do that. That's when Coach said that 2 weeks ago or whenever it was, he's actually given up a bunch of it if he's given up a home duel to do that. So
That's true. So yeah, it's a neat deal. Maybe once, every few years, maybe. It's probably just not realistic. Like you said, taking away home duel and revenue and stuff away. It just doesn't kind of fit with things. This, the way athletics are right now, to do it every year. And something like this once in a while isn't bad.
right, and that's why hats off to Iowa State, because I know they're giving away revenue from their attendance, and so, but they it's worth it. It was unique, and you see some of these things going around the country. What's the school out in California that wrestled Fresno State? Was it on the battleship or whatever, the deck of the battleship?
I think Fresno State in Illinois.
Right, and then I think the Citadel wrestles inside their outdoors, but inside their building that has balconies around, and that's pretty cool. I've seen that before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a neat setting, but they don't have the draw that some of the big schools do, so they can do that. But that's kind of neat that they're doing different things.
Yeah, and speaking of different things, this season, in February, the battle at the ballpark or whatever clever name that they've come up with Iowa and Oklahoma State, in addition to U.S. Sling, and I think Iran is going to participate. They're kind of simultaneous duels there in Arlington, Texas. So that'll be something to look forward to.
And this one was kind of out of necessity, but it's kind of the reverse. UNI holds their home duels inside the West Gym. Well, the West Gym is getting dated. It's very old, and evidently it's not up to standard with some of the disability things. And so they're having to move to the McLeod Center, I believe. So this may be the last year or half year or something like that, wrestling in the West Gym, which is sad because that's one of the best places to wrestle. I mean, they held the national tournament there back in the 50s, I believe. So
that's right. That's right. And Doug Schwab kind of made mention of that at Media Day, that there are certain places that people recall or talk about going to compete, and obviously Carver's one of them. but the West Gym is also one of those places. And I tell you what, if you haven't been to West Gym for a duel, it's something else. I still remember. I think it was a Cornell duel that they had, and it was so hot. I mean, it was packed, and that place had to have been about 110 degrees. Um, Opening the doors to the outside just to get some cool air in.
Right.
But it's funny how that makes an impact in some of those matches. Just that the intimacy with the fans being so close, the just the building in general, and then it becomes kind of an oven.
And I've got to enjoy that firsthand as a competitor. As a true freshman in college, and then later on, again, first year was against Cal Poly with Cal Bakersfield, one of the Cal schools. That was a defending Division II champ and had beaten UNI the year before. I was a freshman. I didn't want to know who I was wrestling, and kind of a quick story here. And I went out and I didn't look at any of the advance notice articles or anything like that. And coach had the lineup posted on the bulletin board. I always walked around on the other side of the room, so I didn't have to glance at it. And so then I went out and wrestled, and I got thrown to my back right away, bridged off, battled back, lost by a point or two. And there's just a packed house. There was not a seat in the house. And back then, I'm not sure the fire marshal had anything to do with it because it was crowded. And the crowd was going nuts. And I came off the mat, I lost. And they're applauding and cheering me. And Coach Patton says, Briggsy, you made a lot of fans today. And I went, why? I lost. And I was all mad. And later on the next day, I looked, and it was a defending national champ I was wrestling. So probably a good thing.
Oh, really?
I would have got pinned.
But
that was fun. That crowd you're talking about, oh man, that can light you up. Back when Kentucky had a program, they came in and it was just packed, and that was Fletcher car. So that would have been Nate's uncle, I believe. Nate's brother, or I'm not quite sure of the relationship there, but definitely a relative with the Carr family there, and he is very intimidating. But that was another big ruckus.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. We've seen a lot of duels there. Definitely a great atmosphere. Something that'll be hard to replicate in the McLeod Center, but hopefully they'll get people to there as well to kind of get things fired up behind the Panthers, and if anybody can get the crowd rolling in, and Schwab. So, speaking of UNI, Iowa and UNI went down to Florida for the collegiate duels. This is a different format. I kind of wondered at first if it would be if this might be a precursor to the return of a national dual championships. Talking to Tom Brands on Thursday, it sounded like, yeah, that's not the case. He even said that when they called it a national dual tournament at the start, they backed out and said, yeah, we don't want to be a part of that. And then they changed it to the collegiate duels presented by Journeyman Wrestling. I think it was a pretty neat event. I mean, I think there are definitely some exciting duels. So some really good matchups, and overall, I think it was pretty entertaining.
Right. I think the format was perfect because I don't think Iowa or Penn State would have agreed to do it if they were going to wrestle each other there. But because they had split pools and the pools never crossed over, it allowed them to compete next to each other in the same arena. And you know what? There are some high-powered teams there. I mean, there's 12? Was there 6 teams there? Let's see. Yeah, 6 teams. And then so there wasn't those must have been 8. How many were there, KJ?
There are 12 total, but 6 in each pool.
Right. And so And so, they didn't cross over, but UNI, boy, we're kind of starting with UNI, so I'll say that they got a tough group there. Jeez. So within their pool of 6, they had, or the 3 that they did the round robin with, they had to wrestle, Penn State and Cornell.
Yeah.
Top 10 teams are close to it if they're not. And wow, so that was tough, but they went in and battled and did a nice job. And then they, depending on how they finished, they crossed over in the other half of their pool and ended up wrestling Hofstra, whom they handled pretty good. So UNI, it was in there battling, but yeah, those teams are pretty tough, especially Penn State and Cornell.
Yeah. And especially for not having their full lineup there. Some really good performances. Parker Keckheisen, obviously, he's kind of the leader, and he went 2-1. He went 3-2 with Aaron Brooks. That was a match that Keckheisen was in. Really had an opportunity. Sounded like he kind of chased Aaron Brooks around the mat a little bit in the third period. So even though, I know that they're not into moral victories and stuff, but boy, I think Keckheisen really showed that, that's a match he can win, and you've got to mention him when it comes to title contenders. If things keep going well for him and March comes around.
Absolutely. And I get the feeling Keckheisen is not a moral victory guy either. He's just one that wants to go out and win. I mean, that's just, when he goes out on the mat, he goes out to wrestle. And a 3-2 match is kind of surprising. It's that low scoring, but I get it with those 2 high quality wrestlers. And I'm guessing there was a lot of attempts and that sort of thing. And I didn't see the match, but I'm not surprised. And it might help his teammates and maybe even his coaches better than it'll help him, because I get the feeling he already believed he could win, and he went out there to make sure that got done. But now his teammates can see that and go, oh, he's so close. I can get there. I can get. I want to be. That's compete with Parker as being the best on the team. That's that competitiveness within the room you like to see, and the coaches now can. It gives them added motivation to keep driving towards that. So.
Yeah, one of the additions back to the UNI lineup too was Austin Yant. He went 2-1, lost a close one to Cornell. That's a nice return for him at 165. The one, let's see, just kind of going over a couple things. Cale Happel, I believe he went 2-1. Had a 10-4 win against Hofstra, one against Cornell. Of course, faced Nick Lee from Penn State, returning national champ. But he looked good, and I believe Tuesday was his birthday, where he got that win over Hofstra. So, good showing for Happel overall.
Yeah, he's coming. We know, we got to watch him in high school, obviously, being so close, and knew he was capable. I'm kind of, good for him for venturing away from where his older brother went and following kind of his footsteps or whatever. So he's making a path of his own and going the UNI route. And, I applaud him for doing that, and hopefully he can really have a great career.
The one thing that also kind of stands out, Brody Teskey didn't wrestle in the Hofstra duel. Went 1-1. Lost to Vito from Cornell in the first match, bounced back and won in the Penn State duel, but then didn't wrestle. Was this maybe just giving him a rest or a break, or do you think this is maybe a concern for UNI fans that he didn't wrestle in that final duel?
When I read that, it was concern for me, because I don't know why you would wrestle him and give the other team a forfeit. unless something was wrong there. So I didn't read that at all, that it would be a rust or something like that. I read that there's issues, but there's issues on every team right now. It's been that first half, and I've always said the college season is so long, but there's teams all over the place that are beat up, and we're going to talk about a few today for sure. And starts there. When we were talking about Iowa State, we talked about Reading and Tarakina and Parker. So who knows what's going on there? Iowa now, or UNI now with that issue. So they're getting some back. Plus, I'm not sure is Isley out, or is Gordon the man now or whatever? I don't know, at heavyweight also. So.
Yeah, that's something that we're going to keep track on. And of course, Gordon, Gordon kind of held his own, had a win over number 20, Zachary Knight and Ward from Hofstra. We talked last week about how he was looking better at the upper weight. So, I'm not exactly sure what the situation is there between Isley and Gordon, and when and if Isley will be back. One of the, kind of look at 149 a little bit for, Real Budo, Tristan Lara. I think that's going to be a pretty good competition kind of going forward. But I think right now, maybe Real Budo is kind of maybe taking a quick step in front.
My word was he's starting to emerge.
Okay.
A little bit. So that, and I don't know if that's right or not, but he's starting to emerge in that spot. So I think I agree with you on that, and not a competition within the room, but Pat Schoenfelder at 74 is also starting to. I think he's starting to emerge a little bit on the scene too. So those two I had my eye on also, KJ.
I would agree. I think he went 2-1.
I think so too.
As well, maybe. So good showing. It's UNI beat Hofstra 33-9. Lost the two earlier ones to Cornell, who's ranked 11th, and Penn State ranked number 2. Penn State ended up winning the blue pool, and I believe beat Arizona State in the championship duel. In the red pool, Iowa went 3-0, and the big news coming out of that has to be the fact that Spencer Lee wrestled all 3 matches for them.
Right, and we're thank goodness in that third match. But not only Spencer, obviously that's what all eyes are on around the country, as being maybe the last 2 years the elite wrestler in the nation. Of course, he shared that with Gable Steveson last year, but with him out and how he won his nationals, and then announcement right after that he did it without any meniscus or whatever, or ligaments, or anyway. So everyone is anxious to see him on. Also Abasad wrestled, joined the lineup for the first time, and we're still wondering about 174. However, Nelson did an admirable job for sure, but where's Kemmerer? So he might have obviously has a little bit further to go before he's on the mat.
Yeah, the one thing about Lee, I thought maybe once he showed, it was on the probable lineup that he was going to go down there. I thought maybe you get one match in, maybe split it with Ibarra, just because, it's the first time in. You don't want to, risk anything, but he wrestled all 3, including 2 against ranked wrestlers. I think outscored him 31-1. Beat Camacho, Jacob Camacho from NC State. And like you said, needed to, because they kind of eked out a win 19-15 over NC State to win the Red Pool on Tuesday. But you know, I think it was a good sign that not only did you wrestle all three, but you know, wrestled well against two of three ranked guys.
Right. Wrestle all three and go the distance. At
Yeah.
least one of them for sure. And then you know, so a lot of times, you know, the last couple of years, we'd see Spencer go out there and not hardly get into the second period before his attack fall or fall. And
Right.
you know, so you know, obviously they want at that time they want team points, but on the brighter side of that, the positive side is you just got to see him go the distance in his first weekend back. And you know, that's a good thing. You know, he's got the conditioning or whatever. So and he was able to handle it. So that's good.
Yeah, and to see Assad take the mat. I know he lost against NC State with you know, Hidley, of course. That's the opponent, but he opened up with a pin and a major. You know, Lee had a tech and a pin on Monday, or I'm sorry, tech and major on Monday for Lee, but Assad with a pin and a major in his first two matches back. You know, I guess that was one where I thought, you know, we probably would keep seeing Miles, but, you know, Assad looked good, you know, especially that first day.
Yeah. And, you know, agreed. And obviously when you're wrestling, it was Trent Hidley, that, you know, that Hidley family has proven they're the real deal. They're so good. And I think it was a pretty close match, wasn't it? 4-1, maybe, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, so he's right in there with them. And Hidley, I think is maybe, did you say third or fourth, maybe ranked? So that's a good showing for him, even in a loss. No moral victories, right? But it's still a good showing. It wasn't a thumping, and you know, it's his first time back on the mat. So you know, all in all, he can go home and get back in the room and feel pretty good about the weekend, I think.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kemmerer. He made the trip down. He weighed in. I believe he weighed in at Iowa State as well. So obviously they're wanting him to kind of go through the routine, even though he hasn't been wrestling. And Nelson Brand's got all three matches this weekend. But I bet we're probably getting closer and closer to him getting there, since they're having him weigh in, and you know,
it would appear that's the case.
Speaking of the championship duel between them and NC State, I think a lot of people were, you know, at least they were asking me about Iowa, Missouri, and I'm like, you know, NC State's a pretty salty team. I'm not sure why people were putting Missouri in front of them, but I tell you what, they were darn close to winning that duel. You know, Jacob Warner, Tony Cassiope with two decisions to close that out. Warner scoring a takedown in the final minute and winning 3-2 that set up Cassiope to ice things, you know, and win the final match. But that was a heck of a duel between the two teams, and
yeah,
you know, could have gone the other way real easily.
Well, let's talk about that. Yes, it could have. It was, you know, Ironman. Let's go right there. Ironman had a couple of real close matches against very good opponents. You know, even in the Central Michigan match, he won 13-12 and was down quite a bit. Yep. Come back and win that in the first period.
They combined for 20 some points in the first period. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, and so, you know, kudos for him for winning. And you know, but you know, he's shown that a couple of times in the past, gotten down and then be able to come back or not be able to come back. You know, on I guess I was thinking the national finals, but that one went into, did that go into overtime?
Overtime.
Yeah, that was overtime, wasn't it? Yeah. And anyway, so and then at the end of the NC State, by the way, kudos to you for calling that, because I heard you knew that they were probably going to be the team, and you used discretion when you were saying that on the gym class. So good for you.
Yeah,
but
try to be nice, but
Ironman at the end of the match, as I understand, that his opponent is a freshman. Is that right? And did a high bridge. Kind of, Ironman was in the crab ride sort of position. Did a high bridge, reach up and grab the head, and appeared to have the back close. And you know what? The referee was right there looking. So, he had a great view. If he didn't call it, it wasn't there. And anyone can say whatever they want. There's a lot of people down in North Carolina and they're fans of that team saying, "Oh, he's been." But you know what? That ref was right on the spot and looking. And if Paul was there, I'm sure he would have called it. So, but it was close. I have to admit that.
Well, looking at some of the videos and stuff, did you think it was a pin? Would you have called it if you're officiating?
From the angle, I only saw one angle, and it was not real close. So again, I can't really make a judgment. I have to trust the official. So I don't really have if it was there, I would call it. Yeah, but if it's not there, So.
And they had a good group of officials there. These weren't guys that they were pulling in from
Iowa. We're in Iowans.
Right. This was a group. You recognize a lot of them with their work at the national tournament stuff. So they had a good crew there. The one thing, this is a pet peeve of mine a little bit, and I'll even harken back to a semifinal between Mike Evans and Chris Perry, where people use still frame photos to try to prove their point about pins and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You got to understand, a lot of times those photos are being taken like multiple frames per second, right? With sports. I don't know the technical term for photography, but I know they have the automatic shutter, and you're taking multiple frames per second. Yeah, you're gonna find a millisecond where their shoulders are flat, and you save that, throw it out there, and go look. But like you said, in real time, it's got to be a full second, right? That they're there, and before you call it. And to be honest, if I was an official, I'd probably even give a little more leniency, a second and a half, 2 seconds, just to make sure, okay, this is a neutral pin. I think a lot of people did that when Evans wrestled Prairie and thought they had a neutral fall, showed that still frame photo, and now they're doing it with Ironman and NC State, and it's like, okay, you can
stop your video at the very point you want and freeze it right there, and
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And kudos to the official. He was right. He was right on top of it.
Right.
He had the best look of anybody. It's not like he was out of position or anything. So you got to give kudos to him. And
right.
And regardless of whether it was pinned or not, you got to deal with the call, and there was no pin. But
the one that I remember with freezing was years ago with it was Oliver, and was it Tony Ramos maybe in the national finals? And
Stever and Oliver.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, Stever and Oliver, right? And and it's like, I thought Oliver won it, so I kind of disagreed with the call, but people were putting it, freezing it there, so I definitely understand that.
Yep. The field was great. I wonder how they'll try to evolve this. Should mention that Iowa did beat Central Michigan and Lehigh. The first day swept Central Michigan 44-0, won 8 of 10 against Lehigh, won 18 out of 20 total matches in the first 2 duels as well. But you wonder how this could, because it seems like it was well received.
Okay, KJ, before we get off of Iowa, I want to bring this up because I bet a lot of people are wondering about it. And I think there's reason for concern and not alarm, but reason for concern. And I'm speaking with Murin and Young.
Yes.
There's some, Young has had a absolutely difficult, in my opinion, first half of the season, and it doesn't get any better when he comes back. He's just had ranked guy after ranked guy, and he's come out of the. I think he's 6-4 right now, if I remember right. And I don't know what his record is, but he's had at least 4 losses, I believe, and all the ranked kids. And is there a reason for concern? Yeah, and he's going to need to right that ship. He's the right guy to do it. We know he has the tools. And just calm down, everyone. We'll be all right. But Caleb needs to address that for sure, and the coaches.
Yeah, but it was a little disconcerting to see how, especially against Lehigh and was that McGonigal? No. Who did he wrestle against Lehigh? No, not Meyer. Meyer was at 65. But the way he got turned and just kind of manhandled from
Humphreys
on top, that he just manhandled Young, there, especially late, maybe Young wasn't, up to par. He sure looked like he struggled. And like you mentioned, you come out of, depending on who they send to Midlands, which we don't know really right yet, but should know soon. You come out of the break with was it Coleman and Brayton Lee?
Right.
Yeah.
So 4th and 11th or something, I think, like that.
Yeah.
And then into the, that's after Midlands. So I was thinking that today. Do they send him or not? I think you have to, because you kind of build that confidence. You can't gain confidence by not wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes you can, we'll break, but he should get that now. But and then after those 2 opponents, then he goes into the Big Ten season. Well, that doesn't get much easier. So he's going to have to work through this, and he'll do it. But and Murin to a lesser extent as well. I think they're both need to really battle through that.
Yeah, and just kind of gonna try to look here at Iowa's schedule. I don't have it handy, but I want to say maybe Northwestern. Is Northwestern on the slate for them as well?
You're exactly right. It goes Minnesota on the 7th of January, Purdue on the 9th, Northwestern on the 14th.
So you got Deacon sitting there too. Mini Christmas.
Right. Does not get better.
No.
Illinois, Ohio State, Penn State, all in January.
Yeah. So that's that's something that they really need to kind of get things straight there, and he certainly can. That's for sure. But
it'll make for a tougher route for him at nationals.
Mm-hmm.
He'll have to go with the lower seed. A big win or 2 at Midlands can right the ship a little bit and maybe reverse some of those if he has a rematch or whatever with some of those kids. But and then maybe time off is the right thing. The coaches will decide, and we'll see. So
yeah, it'll also be interesting to see what they do with Spencer and Max and some of those guys that have been out of the lineup and everything. Even Cassiope a little bit, because remember him and Wilson started competing quite a bit earlier because they went overseas.
Right.
You know, so they've had a little bit longer of a first half than some of the others, but um, yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on who they're going to send, and UNI will be there as well. UNI's kind of beat up, so it'll be interesting to see who all makes the trip uh, from Cedar Falls as well. You know, now with Teskey missing the Hofstra meet, Isley's been out. Um, you know, Yance just coming back. Tristan Lara's been beat up a little bit, but in a competition with Colin Robuto, you know, you got competition at 57 between Cade Lara and Holschlag. So it'll be interesting to see who UNI sends as well.
Yep.
Well, anyway, the last thing I just want to add, you know, where do you think this competition might evolve in you know, do you think it'll grow? Do you think it'll stay in the same kind of format? Did you
I think it'll stay this way for a year or two and see how, because it was very nice. I don't know if you'll get much bigger. You could, but then you add more duels, and maybe they want more duels. Was 3 enough? Do they want to go 4? 2 in one day, 2 in the other, or you know? So there's room for growth, whether the schools want to do that or not. I mean, it's kind of, maybe that's a question, you know, for Coach Brands. And looking back at the next meeting, maybe his press conference.
The neutral site. You know, when I was at Buena Vista, we always went down over break to Florida. There were some big wrestling supporters down there that don't have college duels or college programs. At least at the time, Florida had already cut its program and stuff. But we went down there, and there were some people from the Midwest that were, I think one of them worked for Coke and the other one worked for Disney or Universal Studios. So we went down there. Do you like the idea of it being in a neutral spot in a state where they don't normally have direct live exposure to college wrestling?
Having just returned from Las Vegas for the 5 of the last 6 years, you know, there is something to be said for going to a site like that. Now, was it the Sunshine Duels that you used to go to down in?
Yes.
Yeah, down, because I remember that very well. I had never got to go to it, but remember that competition. And you know, the desert duels, now you go into Las Vegas, and Las Vegas isn't my favorite place, but it's, you know, it's a very fun place for a lot of different people. And so Florida's cool. I got to do that one time when I was competing. We had an old beat up bus that we all drove down and broke down in Chicago after the Midlands. And anyway, it was an adventure. And so that was almost more brutal on us than the competition. Stuck out in the freeway with the wind blowing and the snow and everything. But anyway, we got down there and all was well. The sunshine warmed us up. But what things like that do, that's my point for bringing that up, is it brings cohesiveness to the group. Then you always have this adventure that you shared with your teammates, and you know, look at me, I'm 40 years later still talking about it, you know. And you know, it's just those times that happen off of the mat as a person are just as important as the competitions and the wins and losses on the mat. So, you know, I think there's a lot to be said for going to another place. You know, if you have the means and ability to do that, absolutely, I think it's worth it. So Destin, Florida, or is it Neachville or wherever they went? I would keep thinking it's Destin, but is a destination spot. It's I think a resort area.
Yeah. Yep. Speaking of the desert duels out in Vegas, you know, Wartburg was out there. You know, North Central was out there. Saw those two teams clash a little bit. You know, you were able to make the trip as well. What was the competition like They're in Vegas.
Interesting with the Division III landscape last weekend, stretched across 4 different time zones.
Wow.
So it was a big weekend for duels, and the dual results there haven't been a whole lot of duels up until that last weekend. We saw the Co and lacrosse and North Central wrestle a couple weeks ago, and that's pretty high powered, top 10 teams. And then these duels that happened this weekend were somewhere in the Eastern time zone, somewhere in the Pacific time zone. And we were in the Pacific time zone. The competition was pretty decent, but especially North Central and Wartburg. North Central is ranked number 1, Wartburg number 2, depending on which bowl. But on paper, North Central was really kind of the favorite. They really were. And then as it were, both teams had some people out of the lineup, but I think the guys out of the lineup that were unable to wrestle really hurt Wartburg worse than it hurt North Central.
Gotcha.
Not to say that wouldn't have made an impact, but Wartburg had 3 out. 2 of them were national runners up, and another one defaulted to 6th place last year. And then North Central had 2 kids that are ranked, and I don't know if they placed last year or not, but one of them would have wrestled Kyle. So I don't think that would have made much of a difference personally. That's gonna sound arrogant, but I think Kyle would have still beaten him, maybe to a lesser degree, but maybe not. Someone was very anxious and hungry to get back on the mat. Man, I wouldn't want to tangle with him. I'm telling you right now. I feel sorry for the first kid he wrestled, but hopefully it's a good thing he still has his arm attached. But it was a great duel.
Letting the tiger out of the cage a little bit there.
Exactly. Yeah. But anyway, so that's why I say I'm not sure it would have made that much of a difference for North Central, because they would have wrestled. I don't think it would have impacted their score a whole lot.
Gotcha.
Whereas I think others. But that's what we said. The injuries, the injury bugs hitting everyone, kind of, or illness or whatever, kind of hit Wartburg. As a matter of fact, it hit right at meet time. One got hurt, not that he wasn't able to wrestle evidently in the warm-ups, and one got hurt in the meet before it, enough that it wasn't able to wrestle. So, and then one didn't make the trip even. So anyway, so those things happen, but you just have to, wrestle through them and put your best guys out there and get it done. So my point is, I think when you get to the national duels on January 6th and 7th, you might see a different lineup for Wartburg. Co was not able to make it, and as we knew, so they were idle this week. That would have made it even tougher competition. Not that those teams, Co and Wartburg would never wrestle out there. They're not going to go to Nevada, because they need to wrestle that in Iowa.
Right.
And but some of the other dual competitions, Gator Boot Duels, our favorite name right there.
Mm-hmm. Right, Luther.
We had Luther and we had Loris there. Luther went 4-0. Loris went 3-0. They lost 1 match in their 3 duels.
Oh wow.
So they wrestled Wisconsin Eau Claire and Manchester and Wilmington, and they weren't even close. The closest one was Eau Claire, that was 36-3. That was the 1 loss that they had, and that was with not even their starting heavyweight. So.
Oh really?
Anyway, yeah.
Wyatt Reed. He
did not wrestle, so I don't know what's going on there. Maybe an injury or who knows. And then Luther went 4-0. Had a good. They beat Augustana, Illinois, Huntington, Concordia, Wisconsin, and Wilmington convincingly. And then the other dual tournament, not really a tournament, but dual competition, was the Prairie Wolf Duels that we mentioned in Lincoln, Nebraska. Cornell was there, and Cornell went 4-0.
Yeah, had a good showing.
Yeah, and I'm proud to say our Jayhawk alum wrestler that I got to coach, Jacob Scherzer, went 4-0 at 174. So
awesome.
Did a good job. And I forgot to mention Loris, Jalen Schropp, Williamsburg wrestler, we know very well, went 3-0, of course, and Kyle at 3-0. So the area kids did very well. Cornell beat Schreiner 56-0, Wesleyan 37-10. on 57-0 and MSOE 47-6. So man, Cornell, we watched them grow this year. They're doing a good
Very
job.
dominant. Yeah, and just to think they're, if you look at their coaching staff that Brent Ham has assembled, where you have Matt McDonough there, Carter Happel is part of the staff as well. You can see the way that this team has developed. You kind of think, hey, they've got a really good staff, and if the wrestlers really try to soak in the knowledge that they're sharing, there could be a good upside, big upside.
Right, and then to add to that stuff, I'm not going to remember the name. Maybe you can help me. But they have a for their big guys. Don't they have a former Iowa wrestler as well? There?
Matt Fields.
Matt Fields.
Matt Fields. Yeah, right. Thanks for remember. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So they've they've had a good staff there, and he's produced some pretty good he's worked with some good heavyweights there for Cornell. A couple good ones in Ortman and stuff. So yeah, so good showing there for the Rams.
And I guess looking forward at that NWCA duels, just a little taste of it here. There's 72 teams there on the men's side, and there's the Division II. They have 23. Division III has 24, including Co, UD, Loras, Luther, and Wartburg. And Co, Luther, and Wartburg are all ranked in the top 5 for sure. There's 15 NAIA teams, including Grandview and Life, which is 1 and 2. Life beat Grandview. They're out of Georgia, but that makes it very interesting there to me.
Yeah, snapped their tournament title streak last year.
Right, exactly. And I forgot to mention Upper Iowa's going to be in Division II. And then the JUCO side has 8 teams that I saw, and then add 32 teams on the women's side.
Wow, so 32.
16 NCAA and 16 NAIA. And again, Grandview is the only Iowa team there on the NAIA for the girls.
Okay, cool. That's that'll be fun. Now that's in Louisville, Kentucky. Is it January 7th and 8th, 6th and 7th?
Yep.
Okay.
It's a Thursday, Friday this year. Usually it's Saturday. So for whatever reason, maybe they need the arena on Saturday, or it's a different arena too. So downtown.
Cool. Look forward to that after the new year, and that'll probably be when we return for college stuff that first week, and preview it leading into that, since other than we'll have the Midlands and the Southern Scuffle over this break, but we'll look forward for things kind of getting back at full speed come the 6th and 7th.
And one last comment about that in the Division III side, I was running this through my head. I have to put Co number 1 seed. So you have Co number 1, or Loras, Co or Loras, 1 and 2, and then maybe Lacrosse 3, North Central 4, then maybe Wartburg 5. They probably dropped 1 or 2 all the way down to 5 with that loss to Northwestern, who has lost to, like I said, Co and Lacrosse. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's a heck of a. Just mentioning those top 5 teams, man, you could maybe pull a name out of a hat and have a better chance of getting the right team. Those are 5 teams that all could win it.
Right. And then I didn't even mention Augsburg. They're in there somewhere too. So enough with a number of other teams. So
yeah, can't overlook Augsburg either. Geez, it's kind of hard to imagine Augsburg being 6th or 7th.
Right.
In that pecking order.
Who Loras has beaten Augsburg, I think it's 23-17 or something like that in a duel earlier this year. So that vaulted Loras up and Augsburg down, I guess. So.
Gotcha. Well, let's shift speeds here. If you don't have anything else for the college side, but let's take a look here at the high school action from last weekend and even this week as some of the teams are trying to squeeze in some competition before the holiday break. Of course, last weekend the big competition was the Battle of Waterloo at Young Arena. We talked about the seeds there. Interestingly, Lisbon had to back out at the last minute due to illness. Brad Smith just messaged Brad Smith about it. He just said that some of the kids were had gotten sick and it was just out of precaution. They didn't want to spread anything, and I just wanted to make sure everybody was fine. They turned around and ended up wrestling Mount Vernon on Monday, so it was nothing serious, nothing big, just something out of precaution. But a lot of the brackets kind of played out the way we thought. Don Bosco, Waverly Shell Rock, West Delaware all reached the championship pool. Indianola upended Independence in that other bracket, and that was your championship pool for Saturday. That Waverly Shell Rock came away with 3 victories to win it. I think they're ranked like 18th nationally right now, but man, Waverly Shell Rock just continues to impress.
Yes, they were clearly the winner there, and now I think the only one that can give them a shot, and we'll talk about this in a minute, Southeast Polk, because they had a pretty strong showing. But at the Battle of Waterloo, clearly it was Waverly Shell Rock, which is, to me, and I know to you, it was no surprise. We got to watch them coming out, earlier this year and wrestling West Delaware, and they're just strong. So no surprise there. Don Bosco, like you said, finished second. Waverly, West Delaware third. Indianola, like we said, jumped in there. So that was the bracket that I thought had a chance to if Lisbon. By the way, I respect Coach for putting everyone's safety first, Coach Smith for doing that, and so kudos to him for that and for their team. I know no one wants to walk away from competition, let alone something that's that big and prestigious too. The Battle of So anyway, that Indianola upset Independence 43-24, and maybe the separation is what surprises me more than the win, because Indianola always has such a strong program, and so they have a great coaching staff as well down there. Some things that stuck out for me. I'm going to venture away from that championship bracket a little bit here. In Pool 4, Alburnett finished third in that, did a good job. That was a nice. And that pool included Pleasant Valley, who won at Cedar Falls, and then fourth was Charles City. So good for them. And then in the other thing that I noticed was it was City High, their standout and their leader, Ben Keeter was not there wrestling. So I don't know what that's all about, but we'll see tonight, I believe, isn't it, KJ?
Yeah, we'll have Iowa City West and City High Russell at City High, so we'll see if he's back in the lineup, or at least find out what's going on there as well. One of the things that stood out to me, since we're talking about outside the championship pool, I was really impressed with Linmar's showing. Their one loss in bracket competition was to West Delaware, and that was a fairly competitive duel. And then they had a close one with Independence. They won 39-36, and another one with Ankeny where that they won 37-35, and then they beat Osage 49-24. Kane Nockaborn, he wrestled lights out for Linmar this week. He went 6-0. I think he had 5 pins, and maybe a tech fall in there. And I think the tech fall came against Angle of West Delaware, who's who's ranked pretty high. So I was really impressed with Limar's overall showing, and then Kane Noctaborn. They're wrestling actually kind of bounced between 132 and 138 for the tournament.
Right. And, basically on paper, finishing first in the second pool, I guess you're fifth, but that doesn't mean they couldn't have beaten one or two of the teams in the championship pool had they had that chance. But so very good showing by Linmar. Another thing in that second pool was Independence and Osage battle. That's a 2A battle. That's kind of an indicator of maybe what might happen in state. We've talked about that before. So another thing that I know, I'm not sure you caught or not, but did you see Wyatt Volker moved up to 285?
Yes, I saw. I know they were going to kick around that idea for a couple of the duels that they faced, and he's still, because he beat Jake Walker. I can't remember what the final score was, but
it was fairly convincing. But I was surprised. It was 8-3. 8-3.
8-3. Wow, that's an 8-3 win. We've seen him kind of dominate both of those upper weights for Waverly Shell Rock and Lane McDonald. I believe he majored or tech followed him in that opening duel that we covered at Manchester, and McDonald I think was ranked third in Class 3A at 220. And I think you're the one that mentioned that McDonald and Walker have kind of switched spots from a year ago, and then to see him beat Walker 8-3, that's he's a dude. He's a dude, that's for sure.
I didn't see that coming. I mean, I thought it would be closer now. It's the 8-3 that surprised me. Now, Jake's just a sophomore, but he's a pretty impressive sophomore, and Wyatt, Wyatt's impressed the heck out of me this year so far. So good for him.
Yeah, West Delaware, man. I tell you, a couple of those duels, they were very, very close to going 3-0. Don Bosco beat them 30-29. Waverly Shell Rock beat them 37-33.
I didn't hear that. Really?
Yeah, they were both very, very close. So you kind of, those are always tough because you just kind of realize how close you were to getting wins there. But they're good, strong showings against two top teams as well. But I'm sure they're not
making those shifts absolutely close the gap on that duel.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a couple of reverses on the match outcomes. So good for West Delaware. So,
and of course, Don Bosco ended up getting second. Waverly Shell Rock came out on top against them, and Indianola as well. But the great thing about this event is you've got Don Bosco, you've got West Delaware, you've got Waverly Shell Rock. They've been in this position before, and they've been state dual champs at the end of the season, and we very well could see that again this time around.
I would agree. That's very likely. I don't know too many of the high-powered teams that are not in this tournament. Like I said, Southeast Polk and I don't know what 2A and 1A other than Lisbon, I guess, who was scheduled.
So, and one of the things too that's kind of that helped West Delaware, just kind of backtracking a second, both Logan Payton and Jaden Payton wrestled this time around. Both of them got wins. Logan Payton won at 152. Jaden Payton bumped up to 182 or 170. Sorry, and got wins. Peyton with a fall, or Jaden Peyton, uh, and actually both had falls. So that's a big boost for them. I know they're going to take it easy with Jaden Payton coming in after a football injury, but looks like they're going to start kind of weaving him into the lineup and stuff in the second half. So
Right, I'd forgotten he was out of that first duel and maybe one other, but so the addition of those wrestlers and shifting around really, that's some, that's good coaching, trying to manufacture that win, getting your bodies back in there.
yeah, and just looking at the championship competition for them, I think they went 5-1 combined. Jaden Payton went 3-0. Logan Payton 2-1. His loss was to Ryder Downey of Indianola, and of course Ryder Downey had another big win this weekend. I'll look it up here real quick. I know he pinned Isaiah Weber on the first day,
And
then he
Independence.
yeah. Then he beat Logan Payton 14-1. I want to say,
Who do you wrestle from Waverly Shell Rock?
Robert Pointer. Oh boy, there's one other one that I thought that he had too, and he didn't wrestle against Don Bosco.
But Downey's
maybe it's the Isaiah Weber one that I'm thinking of that he got a pin.
But Downey's big
over there
for sure.
So anyway, a good weekend for him this weekend. But anything else from the Battle of Waterloo?
No, but
I know the girls brackets. Waverly Shell Rock won that as well. And it looked like there was some really good competition among those 8 teams in the girls competition.
Right, Waverly Shell Rock first, Crestwood second, Osage third, Charles City fourth, and then in the consolation pool, North Scott won it, Bettendorf second, Cedar Falls second, a third, and then Independence fourth. The one thing I noticed, it appeared to me that Waverly Shell Rock had some heavier girls, but if there wasn't a girl from the other school, they didn't take a forfeit.
Really?
Now I saw they took 1 or 2 forfeits in lighter weights. So to me, it's like, why aren't you taking all of them? Or are they just, is it good sportsmanship that they're doing that? I've never seen it before, but if they are, that's really cool. I think, that they didn't take a forfeit there and just, left it on girls that were wrestling and competing.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I'll have to check up on that and see what actually went into that to find out for sure. But yeah, I didn't notice that. So we'll have to see. One thing, and I know maybe there's a little bit of a convenience factor with Waterloo being right there. I know there's some other individual tournaments for females this weekend as well, but just looking at the teams that are involved: Waverly, Crestwood, Osage, Charles City, Cedar Falls, Independence, that Northeast Iowa area. We've talked about it many times on here that they've really been ahead of the curve in kind of a driving force. And outside of them, North Scott and Bettendorf had teams there, and I know Bettendorf has a large contingent of female wrestlers. But it just shows that Northeast Iowa, you've got 6 teams there that can put out a lineup like that. And it's pretty neat for that area.
And those are all big wrestling communities anyway, for the most part. Like I can't think of one that's not really. And historically, on the boys' side, so trying to recruit females for the girls' team is probably a little bit easier in a wrestling community. And
Sure.
as opposed to if you're in some smaller town that doesn't have wrestling's not a big factor, it's gonna be a little bit tougher. So if you have history on your side, I think that helps. And kudos to all 8 of these teams and the others that are trying to put together teams. Now, I didn't see any that were full,
Okay.
but they were close. So you got to start somewhere, and
Yep.
so I didn't look at every duel, but so there's gaps. That's you're going to have that. That's all right.
So since we're talking about the girls competition, last week we were at Cedar Rapids Kennedy and Iowa City West. The 2 programs kind of put together a makeshift duel. And I only say that because there really weren't team scores taken at the time. And they kind of matched up some girls wrestled twice, but they put together 9 matches of girls bouts before the varsity meet. And I tell you what, it was great. It was the first one that we broadcast on KCRG 9.2. But it was fun to see that competition.
I enjoyed it a lot. And I think from the response that I saw, on some of your posts, that a lot of other people did too, and they're very appreciative of that. So you're going to see this, and we saw it, but there's some girls that have been on the mat for a number of years, and they're very, very good. And then, matter of fact, one of them wrestled varsity for Iowa City West and was up, like, was it 10-2 or something?
Yeah, 8-0.
And ended up getting pinned, unfortunately, but she was in control of that match at that time. And so you're going to see girls like that are very competitive, and then some that are just joining. And so you're going to see some mismatches, which we saw. But the point is that get out there and get going, and it's got to start somewhere. And the sparks going and get the interest going, and kind of get through the fear part of it. There's fear think how about your young son that's maybe wants to join the wrestling team. Now think of your young daughter. It's probably even a greater fear. It's something that no one's ever done before. Some of them are anxious to be that trendsetter, that first that wave of first wave of the girls wrestling. Others there's a fear. So I really applaud those young ladies for getting out there and getting after it.
Oh, for sure. And of course, Iowa City High and Iowa City West are going to try to do the same thing tonight down at City High to have the girls duel as well. So it'll be fun to see that as well, given the City High kind of devoting a lot of time and resources to a girls team as well. So it's going to be more and more frequent now. They always say the first one's the hardest, right? We're getting past that for a lot of programs and a lot of schools. So this like I said, it'll be more and more frequent that we have competitions like this, which is
right. And I think when we see the 13 Iowa colleges that are said they're going to have wrestling here in the next year or 2 years, when we see more of those competing, it's just going to trickle down to the high school and the younger age. And so it's just going to explode. I predict that.
Let's backtrack to Saturday. This was the last weekend of competition for a lot of these teams before break. I will just mention I was at Northland on Saturday. Got to see some good small school competition there. And we've talked a little bit about Dyersville Beckman and just kind of just kind of the potential that they had to make some waves in Class 1A, and they came away with the team title. They had two champions um, in Grover at 160, and then Owen Hundergarth at 195. I think they scored 247 points, beating Cedar Rapids, Washington. Or sorry, 147 points, beating Cedar Rapids, Washington by 10. And then Woodbury Central was third with 135 and a half. But the interesting thing, Coach Briggs, I got from Coach Luke is that 14 guys on the whole team. They have 14 guys on the whole team. They only took 9 to North Lynn, but they're still being able to put things together for a tournament win, dual wins. So it's not a question of it's more quality over quantity, I guess, for Dyersville Beckman.
Right, and they've got them spread out evidently amongst the weights to be able to do that with those 13. So, and I know they didn't have 13 there. I know Woodbury Central had 13, and that was the team that had the most. Washington had 12 there. So again, good for Washington, right? Who finished second. And it just got spread out. Like for instance, Beckman had 2 champs. Wash had 1. Third place team, Woodbury Central had 2. CPU had 3 champs. Dubuque Senior was 5th with 2. Maquoketa Valley was 6th with 2. So it just got spread out. And that really worked out well for Beckman and for Wash, to finish in the top 2 there. So
right, there was a lot of parity there. And the one thing I thought was kind of interesting with Beckman still, 8 of their 9 guys finished 5th or better. So you talk about scoring points and contributing. Even the wrestler that got 5th scored 10 points, and of course, the margin of victory was 10 points.
right.
So, I know you were somebody that emphasized, hey, come back and do the best that you can and do it for the team. And, you kind of see that with how they wrestled.
Yeah, I love that. I love hearing and seeing that. That's for sure. It's there's so many qualities about losing and then coming back and battling back to whatever you end up being, third or whatever is possible in that particular bracket, and that you carry on in life. When if something knocks you down, you get back up and you have that fortitude to be able to get to rally and get back going for you. That's just the life lessons that you learn in wrestling.
Yeah, and you mentioned Cedar Rapids, Washington. They had 2 in the finals. Brendan Gears at 106 got second, and then heavyweight Tate Sikora Mathis. He remained undefeated. He's 10-0 now this season. I think he's ranked 4th in Class 3A. He pinned his way through with a fall over Beckman's Jason Koopman in the third period of their finals match. And somebody, heavyweight's one of those weights where, if you stay in good position, you can do, you can keep yourself in matches and win them. He's gotten, looks like he's kind of gotten stronger, gotten a little more muscle tone to him from a year ago. He's staying in good position on his feet, not getting risky and kind of putting himself in danger much, and it's paid off. He looks like somebody that could certainly be on the podium by the time the end of the season comes around.
Right. And Washington, not necessarily in the early past, but historically has had pretty strong heavyweights, at least 2 or 3 state champs that I can come up with it in my memory. And, so who knows, and they weren't they didn't seed back then, but they wouldn't have been the number 1 seeds, I don't think, going into the tournament, and then came out winners. So
Yeah. One, was it Brandon Burrell, maybe one that kind of stands out, who ended up being a state champion. Blake Rowland
right,
was a finalist a couple times. I think for Wash. So yeah, they've had some good heavyweights, and maybe this will be another one for them. One other thing that I wanted to point out too here, and I thought it was kind of cool. Um, Mac Valley had two champs. Brady Davis at 220. He's like 17-1 right now. He dominated his way through. He only wrestled like 3 minutes total, if that. His longest match went 59 seconds, and he's 17-1. So he's had a good season. The one for Mac Valley that really kind of stood out. Michael Shaw at 152 made the finals, had a 3-2 win over Zach Butler from Woodbury Central and tiebreaker one. Then he was wrestling 11th ranked Ethan Hamilton from Belle Plaine. They were, he was out to an early lead, and it was one of those things where it was back and forth throughout some of the match, and they got down to the final minute, and I think Hamilton scored a takedown to go ahead, and then Shaw actually rolled him through and put him on his back and got a pin in 5:57.
3 seconds left.
Yeah, with 3 seconds to go, got the pin. Talked to him because it was probably one of the more exciting. It was one of the more exciting, if not the most exciting, finals match. And come to find out, it's his first tournament victory. So, he was on cloud nine. I'd mentioned the fact that the Belle Plaine kid was ranked, and he was like, "What?" It was one of those things where he had no idea. And it was cool to see that excitement and that enjoyment from a wrestler who had done very well. Just that real genuine, kind of happiness a little bit from what they were able to do, and he performed very well. But I thought that was neat. That being his very first tournament, he was pretty pumped about it. So,
that's neat.
Yeah.
When you get that kid that's been involved in it and finally gets that first tournament win, that's pretty darn special. That's another one of those life lessons that you take with you. That keep working hard, and that good things happen to you. So hey, kudos to him. That's neat.
Yep. And of course, I'll just mention here really quickly. Northland had a few guys in the finals. Blaine Baumgartner got second. Jaron Payton got second. They were at 132 and 160 respectively. Landon Paul, he improved to 16-1 for Northland. Ended up in his way through the field at 170 for a title in their home tournament. And I like how they do it. They line up all the finalists and put the spotlight on and introduce everybody before the finals even start. So it's a cool experience and good for Paul. Had a great football season too, for him to win their home tournament.
That is cool. That's kind of old school. I like that. Come across and shake hands, maybe. I don't know if they would have told.
Yep,
Yeah.
They do. And I think they even did it for third and fourth place matches on the mat as well. So, Fort Madison, that's a tournament with a lot of tradition. We talked about seeing Cedar Rapids Kennedy in a duel last week, and they went there, ended up getting second overall to Ottumwa.
Right. So let me mention the format, because this is really unique. I haven't seen this too often on a tournament like this. It was a 2-day tournament, and each kid had 6 or 7 matches. They ended up with 6 or 7 matches. So on the first day, they were put into a 4 4-man pools, and then 4 persons, I should say anymore, shouldn't I? And then they wrestle through that, and then they take the winner of each pool and put them into the top two in each pool and put them into a bracket, and then they wrestle through that bracket.
Oh, okay.
So everyone gets, if the winner, I think, can get 6 matches, and then if you don't, I think you can get 7. Or the finalists, I should say, can get 6. And anyway, so a lot of wrestling going on. You know, and as coaches and wrestlers, you like that because you're getting lots of competition. But you know, rather than going some of the old brackets where you go 0-2 barbecue, and you sit and watch the rest of the day. So a lot of matches going on. I haven't talked to any officials that were there, but I'm anxious to see if this is a long 2 days. But lots of matches.
Oh, I bet. You know, and I thought it was a pretty good performance for Kennedy. You know, they had a couple champions, Colin Falk, 148, Colin Flanagan, I think 195. Those two came away with titles, and then Jonah Hallam made the finals, wrestled, I believe, Marcel Lopez. So a tough finals bout with a defending state champ and 2-time champ, I think.
So Kennedy, with the columns that are winners, so I don't know if you have a column squared or what you do with that nickname.
Yeah, that's right. Put it in the win column. Get it?
There you go.
Get it? So yeah, both of them wrestled well. Solon actually in the field too, a little bit. Not sure if they had a full lineup or not, but yeah, heavyweight Gage Marty continues to do well. He improved to 17-0, got a win over Julius Harris from Burlington. I know he was ranked at one time, but Marty wins 5-2, and one other individual I really want to point out, because I think there's certainly something special here brewing. Aaron Boone from Washington, Iowa. He improved to 25-0. He won the 113-pound title. Got to see him at Mount Vernon the week before and watched him win it there. He pinned Mitchell Murphy of Dubuque Hempstead in the finals in 5:08. So I think I think he's somebody definitely we need to keep an eye on, because he's doing some really special things early on for the Demons.
Okay, and here's what I hear: 25-0. Holy cow! We've been going what,
matches,
3 weeks of the season.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of quadrangulars, I'm guessing there, and you know, and like you said, you know, with this 2-day tournament, that's a lot of matches that they're going to be able to put in just from the last 2 days.
Right. Well, other things that pop out, I know CCA, Clear Creek had a runner-up in Cale Nash, and then Burlington Notre Dame was third, but had 5 champs and a runner-up, so they had 6 finalists.
Wow.
So those 2 teams that beat them, Ottumwa and Kennedy, obviously did it with depth, because Ottumwa only had 1 champ, Kennedy 2. Anyway, kind of things that stuck out to me.
Just want to kind of go over Boone's a day really quick, or 2 days, I guess. So you talked about the round robin type thing on the first day. He actually beat Murphy 9-2 in their very first match. He got 2 first period pins to finish out day 1. Then he went tech, 10-2 major decision over Evan Bratton of Dubuque Hempstead. His 17-2 tech was over Pope of New London, and then he pinned Murphy from Hempstead in the finals 5-0 in 5:08. So man, he looks impressive. And um, yeah, that's somebody we're going to have to watch. Some big things ahead for him as well. Um, one other tournament I just want to mention briefly. Well, I guess two. The first one, the Regina Invitational. Sigourney Kyoto won that. I believe they had 4 champs down there at Regina. And Regina came away with 2 champions as well in Udell and Aitchison. So, kind of good showings there for Sigourney Kyoto and Regina. And then the Doug Phillip duels. Williamsburg came away. They went 5-0. Xavier got second. I think Marion was third. So good showings there. I think Marion's much improved. Then there's West Liberty and Anamosa filling out the top the top 5 there. And the reason why I mentioned that, because Williamsburg winning, Grant Eckenrod surpassed 600 career dual victories Tuesday. So he actually won his 400th duel at Williamsburg on Saturday at Xavier. Then if you factor in the 199 that he had at Mount Zion, Illinois, he won his 600th career duel on Tuesday at Iowa Valley against the Tigers, winning 58-6. That makes him just the 3rd coach in Iowa history, joining Brad Smith and Kent Kirsten with to reach the 600 win plateau. And I believe he's at 602 now overall.
Right. A couple of comments. One, first of all, congratulations. That's really awesome. And what a great guy Coach Eck is. And I know Papa Jerry's smiling down on him for that, who also was the longtime coach at Benton Community. So, kudos to Grant for achieving that milestone. Now, he's not done. I mean, he's a young kid as far as I'm concerned. So
yeah, he's 55.
Yeah.
So he still has the same energy, Briggsy. I enjoyed, I was trying to get some photos and stuff, and so I was a little bit closer to the corner than I normally am. But it's you can feel the energy from him. He still has that excitement. Still loves working with the kids, and he even said it, as long as his wife Tracy is okay with him doing it, and they'll let him do it at the school, he's going to keep doing it. And I thought it was funny, and of course, you'll know this all too well. With the time demands, to run your program and stuff, and devote it to a lot of the kids that are coming through it. He mentioned, because he's also a football coach for Kurt Ritchie, I believe the defensive coordinator for Williamsburg, which has a great football program. In August, his wife Tracy always jokes, "See you in March." I think that's kind of funny. And he, the one thing, and I'll say this just about Grant. And when I approached him after the 600th win, he's like, "What are you doing here? Somebody call you?" Because I think he was reluctant to kind of talk about it, and because he doesn't want to be the center of attention. He does, and he immediately started talking about his family and his assistant coaches and his wrestlers. And he was quick to point out, I didn't wrestle in any of those 600 wins. Kids on the mat did, and I just, it's something a lot of coaches talk about. They kind of deflected a little bit. It's the humility of many wrestlers and people in the sport. But I just thought that was kind of interesting, that his mentality is he didn't really want to be the focus, and he was quick to praise all the people that contributed to the wins, whether it be at Mount Zion or at Williamsburg.
Words well said. I'll counter with this. Yeah, he didn't wrestle those however many matches there were in those 600 dual wins and however many losses. But you're wrestling every match on that side of the mat.
Sure.
Been there, done that. So you do, but obviously you're not on the mat doing it. So yeah, point well taken. Yeah, very neat, humble guy.
Yep. And I will say this, one last thing too. You know, we talked about we mentioned Jalen Schroff quickly on the college version. He was there. There was a large contingent of former wrestlers there, and I think that is probably the biggest indication of the impact that you make when you have a lot of former wrestlers coming back for something like this because they have the respect, they have that, you know, love for you as a coach.
For sure.
And I thought that was cool. They all took a big picture together, and it was a pretty large group.
Very cool.
So, congratulations to Grant Eckenrod and in that feat. But you know, any last parting shots? You know,
I do. I'm going to go through this briefly because there was, in my opinion, a pretty big match in this. But at the Red Owens Duels, right? Red Owens, my shirt.
Oh yeah, sure.
You got yes, great quality teams, and it was a dual round robin tournament between 6 teams. And you had Southeast Polk won it. Again, Bettendorf was second, Dowling third, Atlantic fourth, Iowa City West fifth, and Waukee, who's struggling a little bit this year, was sixth. And then anyway, in the championship match, Southeast Polk beat Bettendorf 40-29. So just to compare, Waverly Shell Rock beat Don Bosco 50-14. Southeast Polk wrestled Don Bosco last night and beat him 44-23. So it's close. I still favor Waverly Shell Rock, not necessarily based on that score because it's all about matchups anyway. But I think Southeast Polk is getting real close to Waverly Shell Rock, and that's going to be interesting come dual tournament to see what happens there. But here's my point for bringing this up. You had a big matchup. I don't know if you saw this at 152 between Joel Jesseroga and Robert Avila. They wrestled each other. So Jesseroga is the number 1 ranked 145 pounder. Avila is the number 2 ranked 160 pounder. They wrestled at 152. We think, UNI, that Avila maybe headed down to 45. And if Jesseroga goes down, that could put together another matchup, and that's some high quality, big time wrestlers right there. Jesseroga did win 6-2 in this match on Saturday, so we'll see what happens there. Keep an eye on that. So you would think Avila would have to go down or up with Garvin at 52. So who knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I have to keep an eye on that for the, even tonight, depending on when the descent plan allows them to, one of them to move. You've got to think that'll space. They'll try to space them out as long as the plans allow. So we'll see. We'll have to keep an eye on a couple of the items that we talked about, whether or not Keeter's back and what the middle of that Iowa City West lineup looks like. And one other thing I wanted to mention, just because we mentioned it last week, or I did, we thought one of those big matchups at the Battle of Waterloo, individual matchups, could happen, and it did at 160 between Aiden Riggins of Waverly Shell Rock and Max Magina of Waterloo Columbus. Riggins ended up winning that one 8-2. They did face each other in the first round there in the bracket competition. Riggins also had a nice win against Osage, beating Nick Fox by a major. So that was something that one of those matches that we thought we would get, and we did, and Aiden Riggins swept his way through. So just wanted to mention that really quickly. All right. Any other comments or mention? You know, we're this is going to be it here tonight. Weston City High, in a duel. So we'll get that. Then Christmas.
Merry Christmas to everyone, huh?
Yeah. Do you have my present picked out yet?
No, I'm best at when the pressure's on and last minute shopping. So
yeah. Pressure is a privilege. Remember that. So, you know, I'll expect something really nice and shiny. I got yours all wrapped up, ready to go.
Okay.
So we'll make sure we drop that off and enjoy the holidays. I want to tell everybody. I hope you you know, try to maybe watch some of the old meets or something to get your wrestling fix over the holidays. But have a safe and a happy holiday. Thanks for watching us talk. And Briggsy,
We're our buddy right here. Let's keep wrestling on the move.